All right, so we're joined from Jackson by my man, Zach Servis, the founder, owner, operator of Sound by Service. We're so glad for you to join us today. It's our entrepreneurship class here at Belma Jackson High School. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us again. Your second time joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. It's always a fun time. Love to give back.
Oh, absolutely. Now, before we get into what all it is you do, you're originally from the Jackson area. Didn't do a real traditional school education type thing. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the audio industry.
Yeah, so long story short, I was homeschooled my entire life, unless you don't count the like 6 months of kindergarten where we had kind of like a co-op, but there was still pretty much homeschooled my whole life through Rebecca Christian Academy. Awesome curriculum, great stuff. So not a huge ton of socialization, but the way I got into audio was really when I started rapping. I know that you just look at me and like that dude looks like a rapper. But believe it or not, I did used to rap. But at 14 years old, my dad bought an EP from our youth pastor who was a rapper. And I liked it. First time I heard good rap. And I was praying and just playing my piano one day. And I just heard in my spirit the Lord say, if I ask you to rap, will you do it? And I was like, yeah. And he said, so do it. So I did the first thing that anybody who didn't know how to rap would do. I started listening to the rap radio stations. And through doing that, I got ideas. And so I actually started like, well, shoot, I got to figure out a way to record this stuff. So I had a Windows Vista laptop. I had a PlayStation 2 Motorola NFL head coach headset, USB headset for the head coach video game. I don't know if anybody knows about
Yeah,
that
it
game.
was a terrible game, but yeah, I remember the
It
game.
sucked.
Yeah.
And then I had Cyberlink Power Director 8, which was a base level automatically installed video editing program. And I started doing remixes and started trying to do Eminem songs, but Christian and Drake songs and all that stuff. Terrible stuff. I will never let any of y'all hear those songs. So anyway, and I just started getting better and better. Then I found out about this free program called Audacity I could record in. Then I found out about Reaper, which I still use to this day. I actually have used a free DAW to do record artists who literally got nominated for Grammys last year. So
Wow.
I'm actually a Grammy nominated recording engineer, and I don't advertise a lot because Grammys are whatever they are. Drake was right. I mean, it's a popularity game, but it's still pretty cool. And if I can do it, and I'm only just now 26, y'all could do it too.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, people see the glamour side of the music industry. They see the performers, they see the social medias, they see the award shows, but and even not even in the music industry, in any type of we got the Democratic National Convention going on. There's sound people that are behind the scenes that have to be good for these people to be able to have events, for people to be able to record, for any type of time you have amplified sound, you've got to have sound engineers.
I'm sorry. I just had someone send me $1,000 I was not expecting. I just had to stop and make sure I wasn't tripping. I'll figure that out later. Would you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
No, I was just talking about, and I know you're an artist and you've got some videos out, but even though you still are really good at that and you have a hand in that, your heart and your business is in sound engineering. And we all see the performers, we see the award shows, but they have to have sound guys. And even in non-performance, right now we have the Democratic National Convention going on in Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even want to know the hurdles those sound guys had to jump through. So anytime you have amplified sound of any sort from anybody, you've got to have some sound engineers that know what they're doing.
Yeah, man. Look, first off, I'll tell you, it's the funniest thing. I hated algebra because I saw no purpose for it. If I couldn't understand the purpose, I didn't really care about it. I really had to have the help of God to pass algebra. That's why I still have my algebra books on my bookshelf to this day so that I can show my children that, hey, if I can do it, so can you. But I had to realize now that I'm in the audio engineering field, you learn that sound is scientific and formulas actually are useful, especially when you're trying to design rooms and design systems to do the job with excellence. But there's so much more that goes on to this than what is glamorized. Because for one, most people, you're not going to walk up to an audio console and get to mix. You got to start as a stagehand. You got to start doing backline. That means you're rolling cables, you're moving boxes, you're carrying stuff. Shoot, sometimes you might just be the guy who runs and gets the McDonald's for the band. You know, there's a pecking order. There's a chain of command. You got to pay your dues. You don't just get to hop into a great paid position. I was just talking with a guy who's actually on a higher level than I am. He's on tour in Nashville right now. He's the production manager for Dueling Hall and Ardenland. So also
Oh,
the
wow.
JT Taylor, who also, since I know your demographic is primarily considered African American or Black, he is an African American audio engineer, and he's only 37 years old. So he's a young African American guy making it in this industry. And he's top tier, man. He's just been going up since I met him. He also is one of the lead engineers at Word of Life. I also was on staff there for a while. But there's a lot you don't see. There's a lot you don't know. And a lot of the game is fixing problems. Anybody can watch a YouTube video and move faders around and push a couple of buttons and twist EQ and think they're doing something. But if you don't know how to fix a frequency issue, when you've got, because the Democrat, like the DNC convention, you have to understand where they're hosting these things. They're hosting these events in huge cities where there's tons of wireless, there's tons of interference, there's all kinds of radio frequency activity on the spectral field. You have to be able to solve problems on a massive scale. You have to be able to pay attention to detail, because one small mistake can ruin the whole thing. It can be simple things. If you watched from the Taylor Swift tour she just did, one of her shows, the mic didn't work. That
Wow.
should never, ever happen. That you should have checked that before she went on stage. You should have done a quiet check. So there's a lot of things that we see that looks glamorous, because I performed in the Brandon Amphitheater as an artist 5 days after working the Willie Nelson show as a stagehand. And guess what? The in-ear packs, the wireless body packs that allow us to put in-ears in so we can hear ourselves in real time, and hear the click track and the cue tracks. Guess what? It wasn't working. And I'm trying to
Wow.
explain to this professional production team that it's not working, and there's probably something wrong with the antenna. Like, well, we're just going to have to go with the floor models. I said, what's that over there? And the antenna for the rack of receivers was disconnected. And I'm trying to explain to these guys who literally have been doing this for 30 years, it's not the pack that's the issue. There's something wrong with the antenna signal. Let's check the antenna. And when I found, since they didn't want to do it, they're being lazy, I finally checked the antenna. It was a simple issue that somebody missed. So
Wow.
you got to be on your P's and Q's out here. It's way more to it than what's on the camera.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you have a lot of experience on the performing and the technical side, but what was it that drove you to start your own business in this? Because obviously, you can do this as an employee and make a really good living. But what drove you to open your own business to where you are working with all types of events and musicians all over the country?
Yeah. And speaking of that, I just got a call before this from someone who wants me to come and do an install for the Greenville Convention Center. So we're really expanding even further north
Wow.
now. But I'll tell you what inspired me. Honestly, it's just the call of Christ on my life, man, because I was looking at how the other sound and media companies, I do visual stuff too, and how they operate, and especially with how they deal with churches. And I just would come to church after church after church. The sound's never right, video right. And I'm always fixing a problem that some big company made because they either tried to squeeze the last penny out of the budget of the church, or they just didn't do a good job, especially here in Mississippi. I won't say names, but it's really only one company I do work with that's any good out here. And I was like, well, I was a sales team manager for U-Haul, remote working for their contact center, working from home for 2 years straight. I was one of the best sales. Like I literally was doubling the numbers of their best salespeople. I really had no reason to leave. But I just woke up one morning, could not get myself to walk to my desk. And I prayed and I was like, Lord, is today the day I go out on my own? Because I was really mainly doing studio work at this time. And I just called my manager. She was like, just resign. You can always get hired back. You're on good terms. So I resigned. And I just started doing studio work, and I would supplement that income by driving Uber and Lyft. And by doing that, I got to learn the metro area and the city of Jackson very well. I got to meet a lot of people. I got to network. I'm gonna give y'all some game here. No matter what you're doing, music, audio, business, period, it is not your skill that gets you business. It is your ability to build relationships.
There you
You
go.
are the coldest at what you do. If you don't know how to talk to folks, and you don't know how to listen to people, and you don't know how to put your ego to the side and collaborate, you will be always complaining. Why don't nobody want to work with me? Why they always hating on me? Why they call them to do the job? Because your attitude stinks. So you got to be willing to be humble. You got to be willing to be a listener. And no matter how much you know, I've turned down multi-million-dollar contracts from the age of 19 years old. I know a thing or two about this music industry. I know a thing or two about the sound industry. I've worked for the biggest churches in the state. I've worked some of the biggest events. I worked the Maxwell concert, the Willie Nelson concert. I was in the choir when the Maverick City music concert happened. I can tell you something, but guess what? I'm always listening. I'm always learning. And if you stay teachable and stay coachable, you can win no matter what path you choose.
Absolutely. And man, and you said the exact same things I say there. And a quote I always use is, as an entrepreneur, you need the customers more than the customers need you. So you have to show why you are the best option in whatever field you're in. And especially in a competitive industry like the music industry, because I think a mistake that young people of all backgrounds make in the music industry is they just think about what their friends like to listen to. They just they just worry about, here's who I like. The music industry is way too broad to just get tunnel vision. And then what's so crazy, something I think needs to be said, these artists that we see, if they don't surround themselves with the right people, they may have a hit here or there, or a viral video. They're really not going to be bringing in the bucks for very long.
No, as like look, as a rapper, I get to speak on stuff that most people who have my skin color can't speak on, but because I live in this culture, I'm part of this music industry. Let me tell you guys, that money in those videos, it ain't real. It literally they buy it in bulk. They're not stupid enough to, but you have people who are young, they don't know any better. They're out here putting real money on camera. They're out here really, really waving real guns, doing all this stuff. Y'all don't even understand what goes into a music video, the permits that have to be gotten to do this at certain places. Like I've shot music videos here in Jackson at a courthouse just recently on a collaboration I did. And speaking of that word in this business and in any business, you said it, business is competitive. That's not God's plan for humanity. God did not create competition. Man created competition. Competition typically comes from people either not being willing to work together or fear that someone else will get what they want. You have to become familiar with the word collaboration, because this is why I surround myself with people who are different ages, different demographics, different mentalities, different styles. I do country music. I'm working on a rock album right now. I do rap. I do gospel, Christian CCM. I can even do jazz. And because I'm always surrounding myself with different ideas, different styles, because if you're not able to collaborate, then there's always somebody better than you. You have to be willing to work together. How am I so successful in the Jackson market, which is a very small market, very competitive market? Because I work with almost everybody, unless if they have a character issue, I'm not going to work with them. But if they at least have good character and they do decent business, I'm going to find a way to work with them. And that is how you build. That is how you get to the next level, because you don't put all the weight on yourself. You don't get out of here, well, I'm going to fight, I'm going to show on the best. Screw that. You're never going to be the best. That is a waste of your time. Be your best. But the best means you're comparing yourself to other people. And there's always somebody somewhere you don't know about who's going harder than you, who's got more knowledge than you, or just has more resources than you. But if you can humble yourself and say, wait a minute, okay, hey, can I get a lunch? Can I take you out to lunch and just ask you some questions? Can I shadow you for free and just be a fly on the wall? Can I intern? You don't even got to pay me. And just let me get my eyes here. They're going to eventually see you're serious. I'm telling you, like my guy who's the production manager, he's looking for people who want to just come for free and watch him do what he does for a few months, so that you can make a $50, $60, $70, $80,000 salary. Like this stuff, it's literally statistically harder to make a living salary in music than it is as an athlete. It's less than 0%. And I'm doing it. He's doing it. And I'm only 26. He's only 37, which means if you can get these secrets and you can learn to apply these keys, like Mr. Greg's been teaching y'all, y'all can really take over the game.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I did want to hit on too is, we've seen your website, but tell us about the things that you do, because obviously you have a variety of things. Because you mentioned a few of them. You don't just do the mixing. You don't just do the production. So tell us about all the things that you do at Sound by Service and how that makes you a more attractive business for someone to use.
Yeah, so we do, let's see, I do studio recording, mixing, mastering, music production. We make the songs from scratch, build the beat or build the instrumental with live instruments. We do live album recordings. I did one at Dillon Hall last year. We do live mixing, mastering, although typically you don't master something live, but I mean, I'm sure it can be done, recording. We do audio and sound system installs, video wall installs, lighting installs, all that stuff. We do just about anything music production. I build websites. I built that website. Like I set it up through a domain host, and I built it myself. I do consulting. I train worship leaders. I train audio engineers. I flew out to Orlando last year to a church, and they had a volunteer who had never touched sound in his life, didn't know the first thing about music, and in 2 days taught him how to mix and engineer live. And he did it. I never got a call with them saying he screwed something up. So and how has it helped me succeed in this business and make me more attractive is because it shows that I understand it. I have a leg up against certain people in the game because as an engineer, I'm an artist. So I know what the artist is thinking. And as an artist, I know how to communicate what I want to an engineer. And as an installer, I know what a PA system does, how to deploy the PA system, how to utilize the technology right. I know how to hold a microphone the right way. All of y'all, let me tell you right now, because I guarantee if you ever are given a mic, you're going to do this because you saw all your favorite artists do it. Don't put your hand on top of the microphone. You will sound terrible and no one can understand what you're saying. The middle of the microphone is where your hand goes. If you have that small tip, you will beat half the people in this game because they'll actually be able to understand what you're saying.
Absolutely. And you just talked about the importance of being able to communicate. And, I'm glad, and I wanted to hit on that real quick before I get to their questions. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because these kids for years get so upset that I make them do these presentations, and they're not meant to be hard, but that skill, and I know I get on a soapbox on this a lot, and I think it gets overlooked. That skill to me is so important, not only in business, but in life, because even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to, do things like walk in a room and introduce yourself, be able to say, here's what I have, here's how much it costs, here's how we're going to help you. And even more so if you're in business for yourself. So that skill that you mentioned is just so vital when it comes to business success.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself. If you can't sell yourself, you'll never sell anything else. And you have to be able to present, even if you're trying to just get a job as an employee, because you have to show what makes me different from the rest. Am I willing to put in the work? Let me tell y'all right now, I hate paperwork. I hate presentation. When I was a sales team manager for U-Haul, my manager was the spreadsheet god. But it was so much work putting in all the formulas and tracking and keeping track of my conversations with the team I was coaching. And I would forget to do it all the time. I was not great at doing that work. And boy, God forbid I have to put together a PowerPoint because it's just so time consuming. My creative mind wants to do 5 other things. I don't want to sit here and focus on one thing. But now I'm sitting in rooms with millionaires, billionaires. I'm sitting in rooms with governors, rooms with business CEOs. I'm also running for mayor. So now I'm in a whole different market and a whole different level. If you can't put together a presentation, you'll never get funding. If you can't put together a business plan and articulate it with intelligence, you will never be like, well, I think that you should, you lost it. You're not getting $1. But if you can come in and say, hey, smack the papers on the table. Look at this TV screen. Let me walk you through this presentation. Here's what I did my research. I did my studying. Here's my vision. Here's my plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. And here's why you should give me your time, resources, and money to do it. Bro, you're going to get them every time. And you just, but it's what he's telling you is true. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to go in there and show them what I got. No, you've got to be able to present you. Forget your skills. Forget all that other stuff. They're buying you. If they'll buy into you, they'll buy anything you're selling.
Absolutely. Well, I do have some questions, and some of these are really good. I'm gonna get to as many of these as I can. This is Edward Flowers. He's in 10th grade. He's a member of our band. And he asked, you talked about being scientific and using different formulas in certain situations. What are some situations where you've actually used those?
Okay, so one place where you're going to use formulas is if you are trying to design a room for a PA system, because you have to calculate how far from the walls the sound from the PA is going to go, which frequencies are going to be reflected at which volume level. While we measure sound in typically in decibels, it's called SPL levels, sound pressure levels. Decibels are relative measurements, so they have to be based on the noise floor. So you have to be able to calculate, okay, how many decibels is the noise floor? How loud is the AC? How loud are the fans? How loud is the sound of the crowd murmuring and talking? And that's now my base level that I measure everything else. How much headroom do I have? How much acoustical energy is in the room? At what angle do I need to deploy this PA system so that the least amount of refractions and undesired reverb and delay comes out of it? So, and you're having to work in computer systems where you're having to draw this out and calculate, well, how bass travels at a different rate of speed than other frequencies do. Bass is not directional. Other frequencies are. So you can't really direct bass. It's just going to go out straight, like it just goes everywhere. Whereas with a mid and high range frequencies, you can direct where it goes. So now you need to calculate, okay, well, what volume level, what distance, and then if it's a large room, I have some extra speakers in the back for delay fills, because every few feet that you walk, a millisecond of delay is added. So there's all sorts of calculations that come into play. And if you know these things, even as an artist, you can use formulas to calculate how to do a song set and how to make your transitions, because different keys, we use number systems. If you're a music director, you're typically not calling out C major, D minor. You're saying 1, go to the 5, 6, half step, half 6. You're going to use numbers, and you have to be able to rapidly calculate what number goes where and what number will work with if we're going to do a scale change or a key change, what number would that be and what would that correlate to? So it's not always algebraic, but formula is how the music hits are made. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. This is Jordan Jobe. He's a member of our football team. And he asks, what is the project that you've done that you're particularly proud of and why?
Well, for one, my newest album that's about to drop, stay tuned. It's called This Is Me. And it's been worked on for 5 years now. I've recorded it, mixed and mastered it myself, with the exception of one song that the guy was telling you about, JT. He recorded, and his rough mix was so doggone good. Like I'm not even mastering it. It was that good. But I'm very, very pleased with it, because it is a culmination of sounds. It doesn't sound like a rap record that anybody else has put out. And I would say that the time and the effort I put into this thing for it to be excellent. And I really truly believe that the content, I really wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm very vulnerable. And I feel like every song is worth listening to. And I think it's really going to make a huge impact on a lot of people.
That's awesome. This is Herbert Carmichael. He's also a sophomore. He's big into IT, wants to get into the IT business.
Yes, sir.
And he asked, what is your favorite part about your job?
Honestly, my favorite part about my job is being able to prioritize my family. I set my own schedule. I work when I want to work, and I don't when I don't. I don't have to jump up when the dollar tells me to jump up. Because if money controls what you do, you'll always be miserable. I'm led by the Spirit, and I'm led by purpose. And when I say Spirit, I mean the Holy Spirit of Jesus Christ. And it's very valuable to me that I can say, hey, I'm not working this week because my wife's having a baby. I'm just going to sit at home and know the money's already in the bank because I planned for that. And I don't have to be, and because I've done the work to set up relationships, I know there's going to be a phone call when the money's running low. And I know that if there's not, I can go out there and bring up some business. And I know that if that doesn't happen, I just hop in the car and drive around. I'm literally about to do the Amazon Flex program where I'll be a contract Amazon delivery driver. Don't let these folks fool you into thinking you have to do just one thing or you're a bum or something. You have no idea behind the scenes. Almost every music artist who's successful in Jackson, Mississippi, they're doing other stuff too. There's actually not many people like myself who just do production and music stuff and make a living. And that took me years on years supplementing that income till I've gone up in about $10,000 to $15,000 of income every year. It's going to be bigger this year because I kind of hit a next level. But I can tell you right now, that is my favorite part, that I can put my wife and my 4 children first and also put people first rather than a sales commission.
Yeah, and then when you put people first, when you're in business and you're passionate about your business, the money's going to come.
It is.
I like this one. This is Tadavian Smith. He's a member of our drumline band here at Velma Jackson, and he asked, "What are some of the best known artists that you've worked with?"
Okay, shout out to Jason Hairston, neo soul artist here in Jackson. Shout out to the Grammy nominee, The Truth, and Miss Tiffany Coleman, a female gospel rapper out here. Shout out to I haven't got to work with him, but I did actually run into him at the same studio. Dear Silas, he's one of the biggest names coming out of Mississippi.
Yeah, he used to be a trumpet player, and now he's a rapper.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
actually
ran into
interviewed,
him.
I actually interviewed him for Jackson Free Press several years ago.
Oh, dude, that's so, yes, it was so funny because I ran into him heading into my studio session, and he was shooting a video, and I said, "Hey, man, I love your sound, man. You remind me of Kendrick Lamar." And now to find out that he's like an established rapper, he's got a co-sign from Snoop Dogg. It's really cool. So those are a few people. Like I said, Maverick City Music, sung in a choir with them. Getting to do stuff with, I got to be there for the Newsboys, Torrin Wells, a few different names, and then a few names that because I don't have their permission, I cannot share that I did sessions with. But if I let's just say maybe one of them's name rhymes with caboose, and we'll just say that, and Pay Dilliams. So different people, lots of fun artists from the industry level all the way down to local independent artists like myself.
Awesome. I just got a couple more. This is Cameron Sutton, and he asked, "What are some of the software and apps you use for music?"
Okay, give you game right here. I use Reaper. Don't be like me and not pay the $60 if you have it, because I waited a long time to do that because I would just forget about it because they'll let you keep using it even if you don't buy the license. But Reaper is my #1 go-to DAW for engineering. Logic Pro is my go-to for music production. I like to use Ableton Live for live music performance and for creating my click and guide tracks. If you don't know what that is, I'll probably do some workshops on that at some point. But if you think that your artists are just keeping tempo because they're so awesome, they're not. There's a click, there's a metronome in their earpiece. And often there's a guide track with a voice telling them what part of the song they're on. That is how we keep tempo because the music is so loud and there's often delay. So we would never be able to keep tempo if we didn't have that click in our ears when we're doing arenas and stadiums. And then another program you can use is FL Studio. I personally don't like it much. It's super basic. It's very limited and it doesn't work like a traditional DAW. And then the industry standard is Pro Tools, which I use sometimes as well. But I actually have found I prefer Reaper.
Yeah, I think that's funny you mentioned the earpiece. I was right before school started. I was in Atlanta and saw the New Kids on the Block in concert. You know, one of the biggest acts of all time. Donnie Wahlberg's earpiece went out, and he sang an entire song off key. And I'm like, see, that's why you got to have a good sound guy.
Yep, like no, folks will never forget when Giveon did that performance at the BET Awards and his auto tune was in the wrong key, and folks thought he couldn't sing. I was like, no, 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 no. The audio engineer was running Waves SoundGrid with the Waves Real Tune plugin, and he had the wrong key set for his voice. He didn't have the right key. I guarantee you that dude got fired.
Oh, big time. All right, I just got one more. This is Christopher Mitchell. He's a member of our basketball team here, and he asked, "What in your career has been the most difficult accomplishment that you have done so far?"
Ooh, that's oh man. Let me think. Most difficult accomplishment. Um, okay. I would say the fact that I was able to rap in front of over 12,000 people on the biggest night of the Brandon Amphitheater ever and see 2,000 souls get saved, the amount of work and failures and the heartbreak of saying no to a label offer because I knew that I would have to compromise my integrity to take the offer. I mean, when you're 19 years old and you turn down a multi-million-dollar deal and an opportunity to be famous, get flown out to New York and do a tour and all these things, it makes you think about things, you know, and the fact that I had to choose, I had to skip the shortcut. I had to go through years of working a 9 to 5. I had to go through volunteering at a church, never getting paid, you know, just learning how to use equipment. I had to go through working as a stagehand, learning the lay of the land, showing up to prayer meetings just to pray, not even knowing that it was going to lead to the connection that got me booked. So I would say that would be the most difficult because it took so much character development. And if I can leave anybody with this, is understanding that your relationship with Jesus is important, your relationship with people is important, and the work you do on your character, it being a man and a woman of integrity. When you say it, you mean it. You don't make excuses for why you're going to back out on it, even if it means you take less money. There are times I've had to turn down higher paying gigs to keep my word on a lower paying gig. But if you make yourself a person of integrity and you make yourself a man or a woman of your word, you will be able to go through those tough seasons and you will always reap the reward.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But before you go, first of all, tell us about your website, where we can find it, and all of your information.
Absolutely. You can find my music on I Am Zach, ZACH, Servis, SERVIS, IamZachServis.com. All my social media links are at the footer, at the bottom of that page. I'm Zach Servis on every single social media platform, everything from Facebook through, and you can find out about my business, Sound by Service, on social media, or by going to soundbyservice.square.site to see the studio portion of the website. Because I took down the other one that I was paying for because I felt like it was just too many different websites. And you're always welcome to reach out to me. You can get my info from Mr. Greg. Happy to point y'all in the direction of any opportunities that I can, and always here to be a coach or just somebody you can talk to about your dreams.
Now, one last thing before we go. You know, I have all young men in here with me right now, and I know you're there in Jackson. You're getting involved in the political scene there. Why do we need so many of these young high school men to step up and be leaders in our community?
Dude, the youth community is literally dying out here in Jackson. There's no vision. There's a lack of energy and passion for the right things, and there's a lack of role models. A lot of us either grew up with no parents, no father, or a very poor example of a father. And if we don't step up and break that cycle, we cannot use the excuse, well, I'm just a product of my environment. I hear them say this every day. I'm just a product of my environment. Well, this is just what I saw. You are responsible for you. It is true that we may have, I grew up in a Christian but abusive household with an abusive father who was abusive verbally and physically. I didn't even choose to come to Mississippi. He kicked me out the house and sent me here to live with my grandparents because he didn't want to deal with me. And I could have said, I'm a victim. Everybody did me wrong. And this is why I've given up on life and I've chosen to just do whatever I feel like. But I had to choose, for one, to follow God, and two, to be bigger than my circumstance. Was it easy? No. Did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I feel bad and not like doing some things sometimes? Yes. But if you will make the choice to discipline yourself, get yourself some accountability, somebody who can tell you no, don't do that. I was going to fly out to New York to do a concert with the dude. And my parents told me, my grandparents said, I don't feel like you should do this. My uncle said, I don't feel like you should do this. My mom had to call me and remind me of a time I didn't listen. She didn't listen to me and got herself physically hurt. I thank God I listened, because the next day I told him I can't come out. He got busted on drug charges and all of his label money got frozen. And I would have been stranded in New York City if I didn't listen to my accountability and let someone else tell me no. So that would be some of my advice, man. Y'all, it's important that you step up and be who you've been made to be, because the next generation is counting on you.
Absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us. The new father and the owner, founder, operator of Sound by Service recording artist, Zach Servis. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Greg, man. Thank y'all so much for listening to me.
I see you, buddy.
Peace.